The airport shuttle ride dragged on interminably as Elise fidgeted with restless anticipation, her mind consumed by a gnawing sense of unease. She couldn't pinpoint the source of her discomfort, but it had persistently nagged at her throughout the business trip, culminating in an irrepressible urge to return home earlier than scheduled. As the shuttle pulled into her upscale suburban neighborhood, Elise's apprehension escalated upon noticing the unusual flurry of activity around her house. Unfamiliar cars lined the street, and the muffled thump of music pulsed from within. Perplexed, she hastened up the driveway and through the front door, only to be greeted by a chaotic scene that defied comprehension. Her immaculate living room had been transformed into a raucous party venue, teeming with strangers indulging in revelry, while her husband Carter played the gracious host. "Elise," Carter exclaimed, his expression a mixture of surprise and unease. "You're back early. I didn't expect you until tomorrow." "What is going on here?" Elise demanded, her voice strained with bewilderment and mounting anger. Carter's unconvincing attempt at nonchalance only fueled her suspicions. "Just a little impromptu gathering with some colleagues and friends, nothing to worry about." As Elise scanned the crowded room, her gaze landed on a familiar face. Marcella, her childhood friend, engaged in an all-too-friendly interaction with Carter. A sickening knot formed in her stomach, but before she could confront them, a stranger approached her discreetly. "You deserve to know the truth," the stranger whispered, pressing a flash drive into Elise's hand, before melting back into the raucous throng. Elise's fingers tightened around the mysterious device, her mind reeling with implications and unanswered questions. The once idyllic homecoming had transformed into a maelstrom of doubt and betrayal, setting the stage for a reckoning that would forever shatter the illusion of her perfect life. With trembling hands, Elise inserted the mysterious flash drive into her laptop, her heart pounding with trepidation. As the files loaded, a sickening realization washed over her. The content revealed explicit videos of Carter engaged in intimate acts with none other than Marcella. Bile rose in Elise's throat as she watched the sordid recordings, each time-stamped to coincide with her business trips. The evidence of their brazen betrayal was undeniable, unfolding in graphic detail before her disbelieving eyes. Rage and heartbreak consumed her, but she forced herself to remain composed, resolving to confront Carter and demand answers. As he sauntered into the bedroom, his nonchalant demeanor infuriated her further. "What is the meaning of this?" Elise spat, thrusting the laptop toward him. Carter's expression shifted from confusion to panicked realization as the incriminating footage played out. "Elise, it's not what it looks like," he stammered unconvincingly. "Don't insult my intelligence," she hissed. "How long has this been going on?" Carter's shoulders slumped in defeat. "A few months," he admitted sheepishly. "It started as a harmless flirtation, but things spiraled out of control." "With my best friend?" Elise shook her head in disbelief. "How could you betray me like this?" "It didn't mean anything," Carter pleaded. "It was just a fling, a moment of weakness. I still love you, Elise." His pathetic justifications only stoked the flames of her fury. "Love? You have a twisted perception of love if you think this is acceptable behavior." Marcella's voice carried from the living room calling out for Carter. Elise's blood boiled at the audacity of her presence in their home. "She needs to leave," Elise demanded, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. Carter's expression hardened. "Don't overreact, Elise. It's not that big of a deal." His dismissive attitude ignited a newfound determination within her. If he refused to acknowledge the gravity of his betrayal, she would make him suffer the consequences. "Get out!" she seethed. "Both of you. Pack your things and get out of my house." Carter opened his mouth to protest, but the blazing fury in Elise's eyes silenced him. Recognizing the weight of his transgressions, he slunk away, leaving Elise to plot her retribution against those who had so callously shattered her world. In the aftermath of Carter's forced departure, Elise found herself consumed by a relentless drive for justice. The raw wounds of betrayal fueled her determination to uncover the full extent of his deception. She scoured through their financial records, meticulously dissecting every transaction. To her growing dismay, she uncovered discrepancies that hinted at something more sinister than a mere affair. Funds appeared to be siphoned from her family's business accounts. Elise's grip tightened around the damning documents as the realization dawned upon her. Carter and Marcella's duplicity extended far beyond the bedroom. They had been systematically embezzling from the company, exploiting Elise's trust for their own financial gain. Seething with fury, she sought legal counsel, determined to protect her family's legacy and hold the treacherous pair accountable. Her attorney, a seasoned professional named Thomas, listened intently as she laid out the evidence. "This is a clear case of breach of trust and financial misconduct," Thomas stated grimly. "We have a strong case against them, but we'll need ironclad proof to ensure their conviction." Elise nodded resolutely. "I'll do whatever it takes to bring them to justice." Over the following weeks, she immersed herself in gathering evidence, scouring digital records, and meticulously documenting every transgression. The more she uncovered, the deeper the rabbit hole of deceit seemed to go. One evening, as she pored over the mounting pile of incriminating documents, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Elise, it's me, Theo," a familiar voice crackled through the line. Theo, her once distant cousin, a skilled computer forensics expert, had always maintained a polite distance. Elise was taken aback by his unexpected reach-out. "I heard about what happened," Theo continued. "I know we haven't been close, but I want to help you take those bastards down." Elise's heart swelled with gratitude and newfound determination. With Theo's expertise on her side, she felt emboldened to pursue her quest for justice against Carter and Marcella's web of lies and greed. "All right, Theo," she replied, her voice steeled with resolve. "Let's make them pay for what they've done." As she ended the call, Elise's gaze fell upon the damning evidence before her, a tangible reminder of the betrayal she had suffered. But now, with an unexpected ally in her corner, the prospect of exacting righteous vengeance burned ever brighter. With Theo's unexpected offer of assistance, a newfound sense of determination surged within Elise. She wasted no time in arranging a clandestine meeting with her cousin, eager to leverage his expertise in uncovering the full extent of Carter and Marcella's betrayal. They convened at a discreet cafe, the air thick with tension as Elise laid out the damning evidence she had collected thus far. Theo's brow furrowed as he pored over the documents, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he delved into the digital trail. "This is just the tip of the iceberg," Theo muttered, his voice laced with grim resolution. "They've been meticulous in covering their tracks, but no one is untraceable in the digital age. For hours they worked in silent collaboration, sifting through financial records, email correspondence, and any shred of data that could shed light on the conspiracy." Theo's skills proved invaluable, unearthing encrypted files and uncovering hidden money trails that exposed the depth of Carter and Marcella's duplicity. As the evidence mounted, a chilling realization dawned upon Elise. The betrayal extended far beyond her personal circle. Some of her trusted associates and business partners had been complicit in the embezzlement scheme, lining their own pockets at the expense of her family's legacy. "Those snakes," Elise spat, her hands trembling with fury as she studied the incriminating documents. "They were all in on it, playing me for a fool." Theo placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've got them now, Elise. There's no way they can wriggle out of this." With each passing day, the web of deceit unraveled further, exposing the intricate machinations of Carter and Marcella's greed-fueled conspiracy. Elise found herself consumed by a burning desire for retribution, a reckoning that would strip them of their ill-gotten gains and restore her family's honor. As the sun set on another grueling day of investigation, Elise's gaze hardened with resolve. "It's time to set the trap," she declared, her voice steely with determination. Theo nodded, a hint of admiration flickering in his eyes. "Lead the way. I'll make sure they can't escape the consequences of their actions." With a plan taking shape, Elise felt the weight of justice on her shoulders. She would stop at nothing to expose the treacherous cabal and reclaim what was rightfully hers, no matter the cost. Armed with the overwhelming evidence of Carter and Marcella's deceit, Elise wasted no time in setting her meticulously crafted plan into motion. With Theo's invaluable assistance, she orchestrated a grand reveal, a reckoning that would expose the treacherous cabal and restore her family's honor. "We need to lure them all into one place," Elise declared, her voice brimming with determination. A faux business celebration, something they can't refuse to attend. Theo nodded, his fingers already dancing across the keyboard as he drafted the invitations. Leave it to me. I'll make it seem like an opportunity they can't afford to miss. In the days that followed, Elise channeled her fury into preparation, ensuring every detail was meticulously arranged. The grand ballroom of a prestigious hotel was secured, its opulent setting a fitting stage for the dramatic confrontation that awaited. As the invitations went out, Elise couldn't help but relish the anticipation of seeing Carter and Marcella's smug faces when they realized they had walked straight into her trap. The thought fueled her resolve, a visceral desire for justice that burned brighter with each passing moment. On the eve of the event, Theo arrived at Elise's doorstep, his arms laden with an array of technological equipment. "Time to set the stage," he declared, his expression one of grim determination. Together, they transformed the ballroom into a high-tech command center, strategically positioning cameras and microphones to capture every damning word and action. No detail was spared, no avenue left for their adversaries to escape the weight of their misdeeds. As the final preparations were completed, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. She was no longer the victim, but the architect of their downfall, a force to be reckoned with. The morning of the event dawned, and Elise steeled herself for the ultimate confrontation. As the guests began to arrive, she watched with a mixture of anticipation and disdain as Carter and Marcella sauntered in, their smug expressions betraying no hint of the reckoning that awaited them. Elise's gaze met Theo's, and a silent understanding passed between them. It was time to unleash the storm of retribution they had so carefully orchestrated. With a deep breath, Elise stepped onto the podium, commanding the attention of the assembled crowd. The weight of her family's legacy hung heavy on her shoulders. But she was no longer the naive victim. She was a force to be reckoned with, and justice would be served. The air crackled with tension as Elise commanded the attention of the assembled guests, her gaze sweeping over the sea of faces, some familiar, others complicit in the web of deceit she was about to unravel. Carter and Marcella, oblivious to the reckoning that awaited them, exchanged smug glances, their arrogance fueling Elise's determination to strip them of their ill-gotten gains and restore her family's honor. "Thank you all for joining us today," Elise began, her voice steady and resolute. "As you know, we've gathered to celebrate the success of our latest business venture." A murmur of polite applause rippled through the crowd, but Elise's steely gaze remained fixed on her treacherous husband and former friend. "However," she continued, her tone taking on a razor-sharp edge, "it has come to my attention that not everyone in this room has had the best interests of our company at heart." Carter's brow furrowed, and he leaned over to whisper something to Marcella, but Elise pressed on, undeterred. "For too long, I have been betrayed by those closest to me, people I trusted implicitly, people I considered family." Her eyes bored into Carter and Marcella, daring them to meet her withering glare. With a flick of her wrist, the grand ballroom plunged into darkness, save for the massive projection screen that flickered to life behind her. The incriminating footage played out in graphic detail, capturing Carter and Marcella's sordid affair, time-stamped to coincide with Elise's business trips. Gasps of shock and outrage rippled through the crowd, but Elise's focus remained unwavering, her gaze trained on the two traitors as they squirmed in their seats, their smug facades crumbling. "But their betrayal runs deeper than a mere affair," Elise declared, her voice rising in righteous fury. "They have been systematically embezzling funds from our company, lining their pockets with the fruits of our family's legacy." With a few deft keystrokes, Theo projected a dizzying array of financial records, email correspondence, and digital footprints laying bare the intricate machinations of Carter and Marcella's greed-fueled conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, a damning indictment of their duplicity that left no room for denial or excuses. As the final piece of evidence played out, the doors to the ballroom burst open, and a team of stern-faced law enforcement officials strode in, their presence casting a pall over the stunned gathering. "Carter Jameson and Marcella Whitfield, you are under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy," one of the officers announced, his voice booming through the tense silence. Elise watched with a sense of grim satisfaction as the disgraced pair were led away in handcuffs, their protests falling on deaf ears. The weight of their misdeeds had finally caught up with them, and justice had been served. As the dust settled, Elise surveyed the aftermath of her masterfully orchestrated reckoning. The path ahead would be arduous, but she had reclaimed her family's legacy and restored her honor. A victory forged through the flames of betrayal and tempered by an unwavering pursuit of truth and retribution. In the aftermath of the dramatic confrontation, Elise wasted no time in pursuing legal action against Carter and Marcella. With the overwhelming evidence she had amassed, their conviction seemed all but assured, but the road ahead promised to be a grueling test of her resolve. As she strode into the imposing courthouse, flanked by her legal team and Theo, her unwavering ally, Elise steeled herself for the battle that lay ahead. The trial would undoubtedly be a spectacle, with Carter and Marcella's high-priced attorneys no doubt prepared to mount a vigorous defense. The courtroom was a crucible of tension, with Carter and Marcella shooting venomous glares in Elise's direction as the proceedings commenced. Their arrogance had been replaced by a palpable sense of desperation, a last-ditch effort to evade the consequences of their misdeeds. As the prosecution methodically laid out the damning evidence, the financial records, the incriminating footage, the digital paper trail, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication washing over her. The truth, once so carefully obscured by their web of lies, now hung in the air like a suffocating shroud. Carter's attorney, a slick-talking hotshot named Davis, attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, painting Elise as a scorned woman driven by jealousy and a thirst for revenge. But Elise remained steadfast, her gaze unwavering as she took the stand and recounted the harrowing tale of betrayal and deceit. I trusted them, she declared, her voice ringing with, "They were not just my husband and my friend, they were my family, and they betrayed that trust in the most despicable way imaginable." As she spoke, Elise could see the cracks in Carter and Marcella's facade deepening, their once smug expressions faltering under the weight of her testimony. The trial dragged on for what seemed like an eternity, with each side trading barbs and counter-arguments. But in the end, the mountain of evidence proved insurmountable, and the jury returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted in a chorus of whispers and gasps as the judge read out the sentences. Lengthy prison terms for both Carter and Marcella, along with hefty fines and restitution orders. Their once enviable lives lay in ruins, the consequences of their greed and deceit finally catching up with them. As the disgraced pair were led away in shackles, Elise felt a profound sense of closure wash over her. The wounds of betrayal would never fully heal, but the pursuit of justice had been a cathartic balm, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Turning to Theo, she offered a grateful embrace, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "Without you, none of this would have been possible." Theo returned her embrace, his expression a mixture of pride and admiration. "You did it, Elise. You took them down and reclaimed what was rightfully yours." As they exited the courthouse, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of renewed purpose coursing through her veins. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. She would dedicate herself to restoring her family's legacy, a phoenix rising from the ashes of deceit and emerging stronger than ever before. With Carter and Marcella's downfall secured, Elise turned her focus toward mending the wounds of their duplicity and reclaiming the reins of her family's legacy. The road ahead promised to be arduous, but she was emboldened by a newfound sense of strength and resilience, forged in the crucible of betrayal. In the weeks that followed the trial, Elise immersed herself in the intricate workings of the business, untangling the web of deceit that had been woven by her treacherous husband and former friend. With Theo's invaluable assistance, she pored over financial records, restructured operations, and implemented stringent safeguards to prevent future exploitation. As she navigated the challenges of restoring order, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. She was no longer the naive victim, but a formidable force to be reckoned with, a warrior who had emerged victorious from the ashes of betrayal. One evening, As she stood on the balcony of her office, surveying the sprawling cityscape before her, a familiar voice broke the silence. "You've come a long way, Elise," Theo remarked, joining her side. Elise nodded, a wistful smile playing on her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you, Theo. You were the ally I never knew I needed." Theo's expression softened, a hint of admiration flickering in his eyes. "You had the strength within you all along. I merely provided a guiding hand." As they stood together, basking in the warm glow of the setting sun, Elise felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. The path to reclaiming her life had been paved with pain and heartbreak, but she had emerged from the crucible a stronger, more resilient version of herself. In the days that followed, Elise sought solace in the company of those who had stood by her through the darkest of times, her true friends and the family members who had never wavered in their loyalty. She hosted a small gathering, a celebration of her newfound independence and the promising future that lay ahead. As she surveyed the intimate gathering, Elise couldn't help but feel a sense of peace enveloping her. The scars of betrayal would forever be a part of her story, but they had also forged her into a force to be reckoned with, a woman who had stared down the abyss of deceit and emerged triumphant. With a warm smile, she raised her glass in a silent toast, her voice ringing with conviction. "To new beginnings," she declared, "and to the strength that lies within us all, even in the darkest of times." As the guests echoed her sentiment, Elise felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was ready to embrace it with open arms, armed with the knowledge that she had survived the ultimate betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. The chapter of her life that had been marred by deceit and heartbreak had come to a close, but a new dawn was on the horizon, a future brimming with possibility and the promise of a legacy reclaimed, forged in the fires of resilience and an unwavering pursuit of truth.
We decided to give everyone a trip to a spa resort instead. I take it you'll pay the cancellation fee. I was told that over the phone by a man I went to school with, Mark. As I heard what he had to say, I thought I knew. This is how Mark has always been. Since the beginning, he has been playing pranks on me that are really aggravating. However, I can now finally exact revenge on him because someone told me the truth. My old classmate, Megan, went out of her way to visit and tell me everything, and for that I am immensely thankful. That's why I dropped a bombshell on Mark right away. There's no reservation. What? Really? The voices of the other persons listening on Mark's phone were startled a second later. Mark and his group were clueless at the time. They were unaware of the repercussions of their last-minute cancellation, and when they stormed inside the restaurant later, they had no idea what was in store for them. Matthew Carter is my name. I work as a normal employee at a food firm, and I'm 40 years old. I was raised in a quiet town with a natural and healthy environment. I have always led a stable and unremarkable existence. I've never really experienced the highs and lows that others claim life is full of. I never had any significant setbacks because I was good at studies and sports. As a result, my life has been somewhat uneventful. I was frequently jealous of those around me since I was leading such a life. Everything you do, Matthew, is excellent. You have such talent. You're capable of managing things with minimal effort. To be honest, though, I've never valued that sentiment. People who aim high, fail, and learn from their mistakes, in my opinion, are more radiant. I believe that my life will always be boring and uninteresting. However, I came to the realization that I was a huge fish in a small pond one day. When I assisted an old neighbor, I came to that realization. Although he raises cattle and grows crops on his livestock farm, he frequently lacks the necessary staff. As a result, neighbors and idle youth frequently provide a hand. Thank you, Matthew, for your assistance. Take this, please. As a thank you, I've packed you some beef from our farm. He gave me a large box of meat as payment one day after I helped him. When I asked my parents, who own a barbecue restaurant, to prepare beef, It turned out to be really wonderful, even though I wasn't a big fan of meat. That was a pivotal event in my life. There are many delectable local specialties in my hometown, particularly the pork. I wanted to spread the word about this amazing meat as widely as I could when I grew up. I therefore relocated to New York City as an adult, where I worked for a food firm and researched strategies for promoting the unique goods from my region. It was late morning, almost noon. While working in the accounting department, I got up from my desk to head to the restroom. Even as I mentally juggled calculations, I noticed some employees from another department having a serious conversation in the hallway. They seemed troubled about something. Looks like there's going to be a party soon, but they're short on beef for the menu. Oh, the annual anniversary event. Since we're in the food business, they probably want the dishes to be top-notch. Exactly. The usual supplier that provided high-quality meat went out of business. Apparently, they were frustrated about not being able to get the necessary ingredients. Since my company is relatively small, even someone like me overhears this kind of news quickly. That closeness also makes it easy to approach coworkers in other departments. I thought about my hometown and decided to speak up. Hey, if you'd like, I can introduce you to some livestock farms and butcher shops from my hometown. I know a few, so I might be able to help. The employees I spoke to lit up with joy. Is that true? That would be a huge help. It's been tough trying to find a new supplier. They seemed to be more troubled than I had imagined, and they shook my hand enthusiastically. Even for a small company's party, it was a founding anniversary, so it mattered for the company's reputation. They must have wanted to prepare as well as they could. Seeing their brighter expressions made me happy too. All right, I'll quickly share the contact info now. Do you have something to write it down with? After giving them a few phone numbers and email addresses, I went to the restroom and then returned to my work. As soon as I finished the rest of my tasks, it was time for a break. I checked my phone and was surprised to find several emails from people back home. Wow, they were fast. They've already contacted this many people. Muttering to myself, I scanned through the emails and noticed one from a familiar shop. So they even reached out to that butcher shop? I gave them the contact info just in case, but I hope nothing goes wrong. The email that caught my attention was from Mark, a former classmate of mine. We had known each other during middle and high school, but he had a pretty annoying personality. For some reason, he always seemed to have it out for me, constantly bothering me. He never went too far since he's a bit of a coward, so I didn't let it bother me. But others might not feel the same way. Thinking about Mark targeting my company made me uneasy. Mark, infamous as a troublemaker in our small town, better not cause problems for my coworkers. A few days later, the long-prepared company anniversary party was held. Unlike something a big corporation might do, we reserved a modest hotel. It's a small place, but fairly well known. Many people enjoyed the food prepared by our company. Every year, our CEO would encourage participation, saying, "The company anniversary party is the face of our business, so I want as many of you as possible to join. I'm sure it'll be a great time." For that reason, the party was held in the hotel's banquet hall. But I ended up running into an old classmate there. When I saw his familiar face, I couldn't help but frown. Not wanting to get involved, I tried to look away and make myself scarce. But he noticed me. "Hey, you work for this company. What a coincidence." Ignoring him wasn't an option once he spoke to me. Reluctantly, I responded to Mark. "Yeah, I work in accounting." "You still have the same dull face, huh? Accounting suits you, such a boring and gloomy job." Mark's words weren't just insulting to me, but also belittled my coworkers, which made me angry. Seeing him here made it clear where the party's meat had come from. The only consolation was that despite Mark's bad personality, the meat quality was good. The butcher shop back home was rumored to have poor customer service, but the quality of the products themselves was reliable. Because of that, I could vouch for the quality of the meat he provided. Thinking about this, I glanced at Mark's hands and saw a large plate piled high with food. It seemed he had grabbed everything from the nearby table. Your food's not bad, considering how small your operation is. He was eating messily, dropping bits of food onto the floor. Annoyed, I decided to say something. Your manners are terrible. You're not a kid anymore, so stop making such a mess. What are you, my mom? Yeah, I get it. Even though I scolded him, he brushed it off. Sighing internally, I walked away from him. If I stayed any longer, I'd lose the motivation to enjoy the party. But Mark started hitting on female employees and making unreasonable demands to the staff replenishing the food. Finally, I decided enough was enough and made the call to kick him out. Hey, stop bothering everyone else. You're leaving the venue. What are you talking about? Hey, don't pull me. I grabbed his arm and forced him out of the venue. Mark, dragged out of the banquet hall against his will, naturally gave me a resentful glare, but this was non-negotiable. I appreciate that you took the last-minute deal, but you're still technically an outsider. There's no next deal, is there? Yeah, but what's the big deal about that? Nobody from your company said anything. Mark didn't seem to realize that he had made others uncomfortable. They didn't speak up because they felt indebted. Either way, don't act out anymore. You're leaving now. Got it? He looked clearly dissatisfied, but I wasn't going to back down on this. Just as I was about to press him further, he seemed to remember something. Oh yeah, about the class reunion. I've got something to tell you. Hearing this, I mentally pulled up my schedule. Every year around this time, there was always a class reunion. But this year, the usual cafe where we held it was temporarily closed, and I was wondering what would happen. Wasn't the old man who runs that cafe unable to work because of his back pain? Exactly. That's why we're in a pinch. So, your family runs a barbecue restaurant, right? Set it up for us. Not wanting to trouble my company further and feeling indebted for Mark's help with the party, I decided to accept his request to quickly get him to leave. All right, I'll let my parents know. Thanks. Friends are the best, aren't they? Mark suddenly brightened up and started walking home. His cheerful stride was a stark contrast to the dissatisfaction he showed earlier. Relieved that one hassle was taken care of, I let out a sigh. Little did I know that this conversation would lead to another problem later on. A few weeks later, on the morning of the day Mark had made the reservation for the class reunion, I was driving back to my family's home in the countryside. Since it was just after sunrise, it was still too early for the reunion, but I headed to the barbecue restaurant. To be honest, our place isn't very busy. We run it more for the community and as a hobby than for profit. Because of that, it's rare to get large group reservations, so I knew they'd need my help. That's why I left the city in the middle of the night and drove for hours in my car. When I arrived at the restaurant, as expected, my parents were busy. Mom, Dad, I'm here to help. All right, thanks. There's an apron over there, so get changed. Both in their 60s, my parents responded with their usual curt remarks, even though it had been a while since we had seen each other. They've always been like this, so I didn't think much of it. I kept the greeting short and headed into the kitchen. After putting on the apron, I got straight to work. As I expected, preparing meat for 30 classmates was no easy task. Barbecue restaurants might seem simple, but there's actually a lot to do. Plating the meat, preparing sauces, ensuring hygiene and safety, and keeping all the tools in order. Rushing to get everything ready in time, I barely noticed the hours pass, and soon it was time for the reunion. We'll take care of the rest, so go wait in the dining area, my mom instructed. Following her directions, I changed out of my apron and moved to the front of the restaurant to wait for my classmates. But no matter how long I waited, no one showed up. Feeling a bad premonition, I decided to try contacting Mark on my phone, but for some reason, I couldn't get through to him at all today. Just as I was growing suspicious, a woman arrived at the restaurant. It was my classmate, Megan Anderson. It's been a while, Matthew. Yeah, it has. Now that I think about it, you didn't come last year, did you? She was my classmate in both middle and high school. I remember hearing that she worked for a travel agency overseas. Since she couldn't attend the reunion last year due to work, it must have been 2 years since we last met. How's your work? I asked. I'm good. I just wrapped up a significant project and returned to America with my senior coworkers. That's good to hear. I didn't have too many memories of spending time with her. The only thing that immediately came to mind was working together on the Student Council Safety Committee. She was someone with a strong sense of justice, keeping track of suspicious activity reports and notifying teachers if anything seemed off. For some reason, though, she didn't look well. Worried she might not be feeling good, I asked, "Megan, what's wrong? If you're not feeling well, you didn't have to push yourself to come." I'm fine, but more importantly, I got an email saying that Mark and the others are heading to a hotel. Did you know about this? What? The unexpected news left me dumbfounded. Apparently, they were on a train headed to a spa resort hotel. The email said the reunion was being held there. What the heck? Hearing this shocking news from Megan, I was completely confused. When I went back into the restaurant to tell my parents, I found them looking distressed. With a bad feeling in my gut, I spoke up. Did Mark and the others cancel at the last minute? You guessed it. We just got a call about it. Even if it's a cancellation, we've already prepared everything. What are we supposed to do? Hearing what they said, I held my head in frustration. I couldn't believe Mark could be so inconsiderate. What should we do with the barbecue sets we had prepared for 30 people? I never thought Mark was a great guy, but as a business owner himself, he should understand how much damage a last-minute cancellation causes. I can't believe they'd do something so inconsiderate. I'm sorry I didn't catch on sooner. As I muttered in anger, Megan, who had followed me into the restaurant, apologized. She had no way of knowing about Mark's scheme, so it wasn't her fault. In fact, she had come to inform us, so I didn't feel even a trace of blame toward her. No. Megan, this isn't something you need to apologize for. You went out of your way to come here, right? Yes. I tried calling, but I couldn't get through. Now that she mentioned it, I realized I hadn't been checking my phone because I was so focused on helping out. When I took it out of my pocket to check, I saw several missed calls logged. Every single one of them was from Megan. Sorry, I was too focused on helping in the kitchen to notice. It's fine, don't worry about it. By the way, if it's okay, would it be all right to bring my coworkers here? Shaking her head at my apology, Megan glanced at the meat in the kitchen and continued. Some of the people I work with are nearby. They're big eaters, so I think they could handle enough for 30 people. Oh, and of course, we'll pay for everything we eat. That would be a big help, but are you sure? Her suggestion was like a lifeline, but I worried it might burden her. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. It's no problem. I've always wanted to repay you, Matthew. I had no idea what she meant, so I scratched my head, thinking, did I do something? But nothing came to mind. Noticing my confusion, Megan chuckled and began to explain in detail. Didn't we work together on the committee when we were students? Oh, you mean the Student Council Safety Committee? Her words brought back nostalgic memories of my school days. As I reflected, one specific memory stood out in my mind. It took a while, but I figured she might be referring to that event. Remember the time when a middle-aged man was walking around the school with an axe, and we were unsure what to do? Oh yeah, that was terrifying. When I first saw him, I couldn't believe my eyes. Worried that something serious might happen, I asked Megan to go fetch a teacher. But Mark and a few other boys ran into the suspicious man on their way home and started messing with him. I don't know what they said, but they ended up making the man angry, and it turned into a dangerous situation. That's when Megan jumped in between them. I've never felt as scared as I did at that moment, but I was so relieved when you stopped that man from swinging his axe in front of me. Matthew, it was incredibly challenging to calm the furious man down until the teacher and police arrived. Thankfully, it turned out that he was on his way to do farm work. But the thought of what could have happened if he had been a bad person still sends chills down my spine. I've always wanted to repay you for what you did back then, so this is a good opportunity. She finished her story with a smile. I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. Now that I think about it, she's always been someone who values gratitude and loyalty. Well, I'll take you up on that then. Feeling a little shy, I looked away as I responded. After that, Megan gave me a few phone numbers, which I used to call her coworkers. My parents and I divided the work, calling everyone to explain the situation and taking new reservations. Thanks to her suggestion, we avoided any losses. But what should we do about Mark and his group? Apparently, while we were handling everything, Megan had called the hotel to check on their reservations. She shared what she found out. I just confirmed that Mark's group didn't have their reservation accepted by the hotel. Looking happy, Megan went on to explain the situation. It seems they're infamous for making reservations and canceling at the last minute. The staff must have found them suspicious and decided not to proceed with their booking. I see. That's a relief. I felt a bit better, not just because the hotel avoided any losses, but also because it eased my frustration. Oh, and the hotel they tried to book is run by my family. Apparently, they were already cautious about Mark. Really? That's the first I've heard of it. Didn't you say back in school that your parents were regular office workers? Actually, they started running the hotel after I became an adult. Oh, by the way, my parents mentioned that your company had a party at our hotel recently. I was momentarily confused, but Megan's explanation made sense. I never would have guessed the hotel where we held the anniversary party was connected to you, Megan. Relieved, I felt a slight mischievous urge, so I decided to call Mark, who likely didn't know any of this yet. When Mark picked up, he immediately spoke in a mocking tone. "What's this? Are you calling to whine?" It seemed he still didn't realize his reservation had been dismissed. Feigning surprise, he added, "Oh right, we changed it to a spa resort trip for everyone. You're covering the cancellation fee, okay." Of course, I wasn't surprised. I had already expected him to say that. I just replied to Mark, shaking my head in disbelief. "There's no reservation." What? Really? After that, I could hear not just Mark's voice, but also those of other classmates who seemed to have been eavesdropping. I wondered how many people were on the other side of the speaker. Mark may have been close with them during our school days, but if they were still hanging out with him as adults, they clearly hadn't matured. Later, I learned that more than 20 classmates had been with Mark at the time. It seemed they couldn't refuse his strong-armed orders and ended up going along with his antics. Even the 3 or 4 classmates who had often hung out with him back in the day later regretted their behavior, admitting they had taken things too far. However, at that time, I didn't know any of this, so I just assumed a few of his troublemaking friends had joined in. Before they had a chance to come to their senses, I ended the call and turned off my phone. Getting back at them gave me a small sense of satisfaction. A few hours later, the people Megan had introduced arrived, which was a big help. The preserved barbecue meat, though plentiful, was mostly eaten by them. In particular, Robert Johnson from Mexico had a massive appetite and devoured several servings of barbecue. Megan joined them as well and helped finish the remaining meat. "Megan, you're not eating much. You should have more." "Robert, you're eating way too much." "I'm eating a normal amount, so stop piling meat on my plate." Although Robert was said to be in his 50s, he looked as young as Megan and was a vibrant man. With his muscular, large build, it seemed he needed to eat a lot to maintain his physique. I never imagined I'd get to eat such delicious meat. Coming to America was totally worth it. "I'm glad to hear that. It was worth introducing you to it," I replied. Robert and the others seemed to really enjoy the barbecue served at our restaurant. For a moment, I wasn't sure how things would turn out, but I was truly glad that Megan had returned to America. After the meal, Megan's acquaintances expressed interest in the meat they had eaten. Seeing this, my parents took the opportunity to explain all about the locally raised beef. While neither of them is particularly interested in the restaurant's profits, they are more than happy to support anything that helps promote the local community. The beef we serve here comes from cattle raised by local farmers. The feed is mixed with special fertilizers, which gives the meat its refined flavor. Robert and the others listened intently to my parents' explanations. If this connection could lead to the local specialties becoming more well-known, I'd be thrilled. While working in the city, I've been learning various strategies for promoting local specialties, but nothing had really clicked. I hoped this encounter could be the spark for something meaningful. As I watched the scene in front of me, Mark suddenly showed up at the restaurant. It seemed the other classmates had left. With his face red, Mark stormed in, yelling, "Matthew, you set us up. We got turned away at the hotel. What's going on?" He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Megan in the restaurant. "Don't tell me. You knew all along my reservation would be rejected, didn't you? You kept quiet on purpose." It seemed he had somehow learned that Megan was the daughter of the hotel's owners. Her presence at my restaurant must have fueled his belief in some kind of conspiracy. "So this is the real you, huh? I bet you've always looked down on people dumber than you. You always got good grades on tests and probably thought everyone else was an idiot. That has nothing to do with this. What are you even talking about? I was so sick of being compared to you by teachers and parents. They always told me to study harder like you." I had enough of Mark's ranting and turned my back on him, but he quickly moved to block my path. "I've hated your smug face ever since we were kids." As Mark said that, he grabbed a small bottle from a nearby table. It was a bottle of barbecue sauce. Realizing what he was about to do, I flinched, but before it could hit me, Robert stepped in and caught the bottle. Standing in front of me, Robert spoke to Mark in a low voice. "You've been making a racket for a while now. It's embarrassing for a grown man." "What did you say?" "Basically, you're just jealous, aren't you? Putting others down because they have something you don't. That's not cool." Hearing those words, Mark glared at Robert, veins bulging on his forehead, but he quickly averted his eyes. He must have been intimidated by Robert's imposing physique. When Robert took a step forward, Mark flinched and backed away. "Just watch. I'll team up with the others and flood this place with bad reviews." Muttering bitterly, Mark left in a hurry. This is a small-town barbecue restaurant, not a high-end spot in the city. Most of our customers are locals, so bad reviews wouldn't affect us. Mark's actions were pointless. Letting out a sigh, I turned to Robert and apologized. "I'm sorry, Robert. That was such an embarrassing display from someone I know. Don't worry about it. You treated me to delicious barbecue, and it's some of the best I've had. Still, if this is a local business, I'll hold off on promoting it too much." Robert smiled and sought agreement from the other diners. Everyone in the restaurant nodded firmly. Seeing their reaction, Robert winked at me and added some reassuring words. "If you ever need help, just let me know. I've got your back." Afterward, Robert and his group politely thanked my parents for the meal before leaving. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Watching their demeanor, I felt a deep sense of understanding. They truly reflected the kind of people Megan surrounds herself with. 6 months later, I returned to my hometown to attend the funeral of an elderly neighbor who had passed away. That's when I learned a surprising fact about Mark. His butcher shop had gone out of business. A new butcher shop had opened, and customers had flocked there instead. The locals had this to say: "Now that there's another butcher shop, we don't have to go to Mark's place anymore. If we don't have to deal with Mark, it's better to shop elsewhere." It seemed the new competitor had taken most of his business. When I visited the new butcher shop that had caused the stir, I found the service to be excellent. Nobody wants to be served by someone with a bad attitude. Apparently, Mark had been complaining daily, saying, "Why did my shop have to go under?" But I felt it was an inevitable outcome. After attending the funeral, I helped out at my parents' barbecue restaurant. To my surprise, the restaurant was unexpectedly busy. "Excuse me, if you don't mind me asking, why did you come to our place?" "Oh, it suddenly got a lot of buzz on social media as a great hidden gem." "Yeah, there's been talk about traditional crafts from this area too, so we decided to check it out." It seems someone had been promoting the area online. At the time, I didn't know who it was, but later, when I exchanged emails with Megan, the mystery was solved. It's been a while. I just wanted to share something I heard. Mind if I tell you? The email began with that and detailed what had happened after the reservation cancellation fiasco. It seems other classmates also thought what Mark did was wrong, so I went around asking them not to get involved in anything bad, and they understood. As an apology, they started promoting the area on social media. Apparently, Megan had contacted our classmates after the incident, while I had been too busy with work and left the issue unresolved. She had taken the initiative to address it. Thanks to her efforts, the lively scene before me was also her doing. Even if Mark had left bad reviews, it wouldn't have mattered much, but Megan's kindness meant a lot to me. I made sure to reply to her email with a heartfelt thank you. "Thank you, Megan. You really saved me. The local area is so lively now. I want to properly thank you sometime, so could you set aside some time for that?" After that, I started emailing Megan more frequently. As we talked, I discovered that we shared the same hobbies and liked the same actors in movies. Back in school, we didn't have much contact, so I never thought we'd have so much to talk about in our personal lives. It's surprising how everyone has sides you can't see on the surface. I never imagined that I'd have days where I could bond with her over shared interests. A few months later, while I was steadily handling my work, I received some news from Megan, who had become my pen pal. It was about Mark. It seems Mark couldn't find a good new job. Maybe because of that, he got involved in some criminal activity, and people in town were talking about it. Apparently, he had hit rock bottom and started doing shady part-time work. As a result, he ended up in trouble with the police. Given his past behavior, it was no surprise that his actions led to this. Unlike Megan, who had unexpected sides to her personality, Mark seemed to lack any hidden depths. A year had passed since the reservation fiasco. Another class reunion was planned, and this time, I visited the hotel Megan's family owned. During the reunion, my former classmates sincerely apologized for the cancellation incident. "I'm so sorry about that time. Mark pressured us so much that we couldn't say no and ended up going along with the prank. I really regret it. It was such a stupid thing to do." They seemed genuinely remorseful, so I told them not to worry about it. If Mark hadn't instigated it, they likely wouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. This year's class reunion was held at the hotel owned by Megan's parents. With everyone, including Megan, gathered together, we spent a peaceful time reminiscing about various nostalgic topics. It seems like our hometown is getting a lot of attention. I saw it on TV the other day. Yeah, it looks like the area is becoming more vibrant, and more young people are moving here. As someone who has been thinking about ways to promote the local area for years, there's nothing more gratifying than this. I never thought seeing new faces in my hometown would bring me so much joy. What's important now is to make sure this momentum isn't just temporary. I felt determined to figure out what I could do to contribute to that. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I've studied so much while living in the city, but I still can't make things work on my own. Maybe I should have relied on others more. Was everything I've done pointless? When I expressed those doubts, Megan encouraged me. "That's not true. This is just the beginning. If you feel like you can't do it alone, I'll help. Robert will lend a hand too. I thought of Robert, who had started calling me occasionally since the reservation incident. Always cheerful and supportive, he's someone who genuinely cares about younger folks and goes out of his way to help. I felt like I could count on him if I reached out. Thank you, Megan. I feel a bit better now. I'm glad to hear that. As Megan said, even if things hadn't worked out in the past, I could still make progress from here. With people I can rely on now, I felt confident that things would work out. Talking with her, the food I tasted seemed even better than I remembered. They must have put a lot of thought into it. It was a wonderful flavor that reflected the effort of the local community. Once more, you're out and about in those filthy clothing. Don't tell me you only have that one outfit. I work as a set builder for television shows. An old high school classmate who works at the TV station showed up to the studio while I was setting up a set for the filming the following day. He grinned after glancing at me in my business attire. You know, big shots come here. Will you try to look presentable? You're bringing us into disrepute. He was always a petty, patronizing jerk. I had some terrible memories in the past because of him. His insults to me, however, didn't matter to me. His disdain for my efforts was what I found intolerable. This set looks really inexpensive. That someone with this kind of taste actually constructed it astounds me. What did you just say? The atmosphere in the room completely shifted the instant I let my fury show. Before long, the man who had been mocking me was forced to bow his head in contrition. When he first heard the truth, the entire studio was in a frenzy, and he was rendered speechless. All right, that concludes it. Well done, everybody. The crew sprang into action when the producer called for them too. I knew it was time to get to work. I usually find it a little depressing, you know. If we could keep them all, it would be great. One of my older coworkers laughed as I murmured to myself as I was taking down the set. I get what you mean, but if we kept everything, we'd run out of storage space in no time. Yeah, you're right. Ryan is my name. I'm 30 years old. I construct sets for commercials, dramas, variety shows, and other events. In essence, I make the decorations and backgrounds that are used throughout filming. My coworkers and I are currently disassembling a set that was only utilized for a musical performance. Even though we only used this portion for half a day of filming, it took us 2 weeks to perfect after numerous iterations. That was significantly less than the actual airtime. Isn't it a transient thing? It is our responsibility to create and construct sets from the ground up, deliver them to the location, and put them together. We then dismantle everything to create room for the following production as soon as filming is finished. That's the way things are. However, it's always a little upsetting to ruin something we've worked so hard to create, no matter how many times I do it. I would preserve every set if I could. Since that isn't feasible, I at least make an effort to properly disassemble them as a token of appreciation for their assistance. My father, a quiet, obsessive craftsman, owns Westwood Art and Design, where I work. When I was a child, my dad was rarely home. To be honest, I didn't think much of him at the time. What then led me to pursue a similar line of work to his. My mother mentioned something as we were watching my favorite superhero show, and that was the beginning of it all. Red Storm's solo infiltration of the villain's hideout to save everyone was a highlight of this week's amazing episode. She then gave me a smile and inquired, "Ryan, why do you think Red was so cool?" "Huh. Because he's strong and a badass hero, obviously." "That's true. But actually, your dad had a hand in making him cool too." "What?" That's when I learned that the villain's hideout was built by my dad's company. To me, it had been a real submarine interior with an actual ocean visible through the windows. When the heroes panicked, shouting, "The ship is sinking." I had been right there with them, nearly in tears, begging them to escape. If you were in your own room and someone shouted, "The ship is sinking," would you believe it? No way. My room isn't a ship, so it wouldn't sink. Exactly. That's why your dad's work is amazing. With a warm smile, she told me, your father's job is to move people's hearts. Just like how I was drawn into the hero's world as a child. Without the sets created by craftsmen like my father, no matter how great the actors' performances were, they would just be reciting lines in an empty space. That's why I came to believe that my father, who put his heart into every set he built, was just as cool as the heroes on screen. But it wasn't until I started working at his company that I truly understood the meaning behind those words, and just how skilled he really was. A set must never overshadow the actors or entertainers. At the same time, it can't be so dull that it fades completely into the background. Striking that perfect balance is far harder than it seems. Hey, change that color and repaint it. While working in the company's workshop, my father would sometimes give orders like that. Even if I asked why, his response was always the same. Just do it. Yet every time we assembled the set on location and the performers took their places, his reasoning became crystal clear. Oh, it's because of the outfit color. The host of the show had updated his wardrobe. Or maybe he had changed his hairstyle, or something had shifted in his image. My father somehow always got that kind of information early. He could visualize exactly how the set should look to make the people standing in it shine the most. That skill, along with his craftsmanship, was why so many artisans had gathered at his company back when it was still small. As a result, his company had grown into one of the biggest names in the industry. His unwavering commitment to quality and meticulous attention to detail had earned the trust of major TV networks. Now, I count myself among those who admire him. I still have a long way to go before he acknowledges me, but one day, I want to stand as his equal and follow in his footsteps. To do that, I keep my hands moving. For now, I take on as many tasks as I can while learning from my father and the senior craftsman. Then, one day, I visited a TV station for a business meeting. Huh. Hey, you're Ryan, aren't you? A man in a suit called out to me in an overly familiar tone. I recognized that voice instantly, or rather, I wished I didn't. You're Brandon. As I turned around stiffly, the man smirked at me with that same smug expression I remember all too well. Memories I'd rather have forgotten came flooding back, and apparently, my face went pale. The junior colleague accompanying me looked startled. Are you okay? He asked with concern. It's been a while, Ryan. Since high school graduation, right? Brandon, oblivious to my reaction, started rambling about himself. After graduating from a well-known private university, he had joined this TV station. He had worked in various departments, and this year, he had finally been promoted to the coveted production team. His career was progressing smoothly, and management had high hopes for him. Or so, he made sure to emphasize. Well, it keeps me busy, but life's great, both at work and in my personal life, you know. I see. That's good for you. The way he stressed personal life made it clear he knew exactly why I had gone pale. And yet, he deliberately brought it up. That same underhanded smugness of his hadn't changed at all. Not since 13 years ago, when he stole my first girlfriend. Well, I just thought she and I made a better match. Back then, he had smirked at me just like this, while announcing that he had started dating my girlfriend the very next day after she had abruptly dumped me, saying, I found someone else I like. That's when I realized I had been betrayed by both of them. Oh, and by the way, I made sure to tell everyone. You might be the son of a company president, but you're no rich kid. If anything, your dad must be drowning in debt since he spends all his time working in that shabby old warehouse. For the rest of high school, Brandon relentlessly mocked me. He called me a pathetic wannabe rich kid, a loser who even got dumped by his girlfriend. He even said I'd never get married and would just work myself to death. And even if I did find someone, they'd dump me just as fast. So, what's the situation now? Are you married? or at least seeing someone seriously. I've been too busy with work. Ha! Knew it? No surprise there. I mean, just look at yourself. Brandon smirked, his grin widening as he looked down at my work clothes, stained with paint and dust. Back in high school, and even now, he had the looks to be considered handsome. If only he kept his mouth shut. The moment he spoke, his true nature oozed out, twisting his expression into something ugly. That was the kind of man Brandon was. My job keeps me busy too, but my girlfriend's been pushing for marriage. Oh, by the way, you know her pretty well. Yeah, we've been together for over 10 years now. Guess we're just that compatible. By the way he spoke, it was clear he was enjoying this. No matter how much you work, you should at least try to dress decently when you come to a place like this. I mean, this is a TV station full of celebrities and people with taste. You don't want to stand out as the poor, scruffy guy who doesn't belong, right? He leaned in close, patting my shoulder with a fake air of concern. Just my friendly advice, of course. He kept going, endlessly mocking my appearance, my work, and my personal life. Sorry, but I need to go. I shoved past him, ready to walk away, and that's when it happened. Good morning. A clear, confident voice rang through the hallway. Everyone nearby turned in its direction, and then froze, captivated. A woman walked toward us, exuding a natural aura of presence. Good morning. I look forward to working with you today. As she passed, she flashed a warm smile and gave a small nod. At that moment, my junior colleague stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, as if time had stopped. Hey, pull yourself together. You see celebrities all the time here. But that was Lily. Right in front of me, he trembled as he pointed toward where she had walked off. Seeing that, Brandon smirked smugly and nodded. Yeah, I get it. She's on another level. After all, that was Lily. Lily was one of the fastest rising young actors in the industry, praised as one of the top talents of her generation. She possessed an elegant yet striking beauty. Her acting skills had earned recognition from renowned film directors and critics. And despite her rising fame, she remained humble and dedicated, never turning down even the smallest roles. She's perfect. Hard to believe she's only 24. She's going to get even bigger, mark my words. Brandon went on, showing off his insider knowledge. But then his expression changed. His face slackened, his mouth curved into an awestruck grin. It was the exact look of someone smitten. Between you and me, I think Lily has a thing for me. What? You saw it too, right? That smile she gave me. So cute. I was speechless. You probably don't know, but in this industry, it's pretty common for TV station employees and celebrities to fall for each other. Spending time together at work, growing closer, it happens all the time. And guess what? I'm in charge of her show. Man, what a situation. What if the tabloids start running headlines like elite producer and rising star in secret romance? Oh, but don't leak anything yet. All right? It's not true. For now, anyway. I really need to go now. Leaving Brandon to his delusions, I walked away. I'd hoped that would be the last time I ever had to deal with him. But reality had other plans. We crossed paths again. Hey, the shoot's been postponed. Pack up the set, will you? It was the day before a special program shoot. My team and I were in the middle of assembling the set at the studio when Brandon appeared. Again. Right now, as you can see, we've nearly finished setting it up. Not my problem. The decision's been made. Just hurry it up, all right? His tone was dismissive and careless. Naturally, my senior colleague frowned. So did the rest of the team. Schedule changes and last-minute adjustments weren't uncommon in this industry, but the problem wasn't the request itself. It was his attitude. Brandon gave orders with a tone so arrogant and condescending, it was clear he didn't feel even a shred of guilt. Oh, Ryan, I gave you some advice last time, and yet here you are again, looking just as filthy. Don't tell me that's the only set of clothes you own." As if he had just found the perfect target, Brandon's face lit up, and he strode toward me with a smug grin. Is it strange to wear work clothes while working? Even so, there are limits, you know. Don't tell me you walked around the station looking like that. Come on, man, cut me some slack. Important sponsors visit this place. You gotta think about how this reflects on us. Anyway, you said you're short on time, right? I'll get back to work. For the record, my work uniform that day was practically brand new, only a few days old. It was obvious that he just wanted an excuse to criticize me. Dealing with him was a waste of energy. I was about to return to dismantling the set when. But man, what a cheap-looking set. Seriously, what kind of request results in something this tacky? What? I turned around sharply, and for a moment, Brandon looked flustered before forcing a laugh. What? Don't tell me you're actually mad. Mock me all you want. I don't care. But this set took over a month of hard work from an entire team. If you're going to insult that. Anger flared up in my chest, as if the careless hurry up and tear it down hadn't already pissed me off enough. Might as well say everything I've been holding back. I clenched my fists, but before I could speak, that's the set you ordered, by the way. So if it's tacky, that's on your taste. Ryan's work clothes are dirty. Say that to all of us. Look us in the eye and say it. The ones speaking up were my senior colleagues, finally fed up with Brandon's attitude. One by one, they stood large and imposing, their voices rising as they approached. Brandon's face turned pale, and a pitiful squeak escaped him. Hey, don't come any closer. If you lay a hand on me, I won't send any more work your way. Guys, calm down. Let's just finish breaking down the set and go home, all right? I stepped in, not to defend Brandon, but because I knew how scary my seniors could be when truly angry. They had been through hell and back, working alongside my father to build this company. They weren't just skilled craftsmen. They were tough as nails. Right now, they were seconds away from snapping. Get lost while you still can. You'll regret this. Don't come crying to me later. Brandon spat out his final words before bolting. But little did he know, the one who would be begging for help later was him. We've been turned down by every other company. Westwood Art and Design is our only hope. A middle-aged man in a suit bowed repeatedly before my father, desperation in his voice. My father crossed his arms and shook his head, looking unimpressed. I had just returned from an errand when I walked into this scene. What's going on, Dad? Something happened. As I rushed over to where my father and Mark were standing, I couldn't help but blurt out. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, perfect timing, Ryan. Help me convince your father, will you? Standing beside the desperate man was none other than Brandon himself. You two know each other? Mark asked, puzzled. Of course, Mark. Ryan and I have been best friends since high school, so leave this to me. As Brandon puffed out his chest with confidence, Mark, the department head, visibly brightened as if he had just found a ray of hope. The idea that we were best friends couldn't have been further from the truth. Actually, we need to place an urgent request. We're holding an event at our hall in 2 weeks, and we need you to build the set. What? Even for a TV set, a minimum of 1 month was required for completion. For a hall, it was more than twice the size of a studio. The time required would be at least double that. In other words, Brandon's request was utterly impossible. Just to ask, Dad, what are you planning to do? When I asked, my father simply muttered, Impossible. Yeah, figured as much. Please, I'm begging you. Mark bowed deeply to us. The company they had originally hired had gone bankrupt, and they had lost all contact with its owner. Panicked, they had reached out to every other company they could think of, only to be turned down. We were their last hope, Come on, Ryan. We go way back, don't we? I have no idea what you're talking about. Have you already forgotten what happened the other day? Let's just set that aside for now. That's in the past, right? What matters is that you consider this request. The other day, Mark looked between us. Don't tell me there was some kind of trouble between you and Westwood Art and Design. What? No way. Of course not, Mark. Ha ha. Brandon's frantic attempt to brush it off confirmed one thing. He hadn't reported what had happened to his boss. It wasn't the first time we dealt with arrogant TV station employees, so we hadn't bothered filing a complaint. But setting that aside, impossible was still impossible. We'd love to help, but our schedule is packed. I'm afraid we just can't take it on. I understand. Honestly, I appreciate you even hearing us out. Mark had expected this outcome, so he accepted defeat with a sigh. That should have been the end of it. They should have left. But then, don't get the wrong idea just because we were being polite, you damn small-time subcontractors. Everyone froze. All eyes turned to Brandon. Oblivious, he raised his voice even more. This is a TV station job. You should be begging for the chance to work with us. Who do you think you are, turning it down? Did you forget how much work we've given you? Without us, you'd be starving. And you even had the nerve to talk back the other day. I should have cut you off right then and there. And seriously, Mark, why are you bowing to them? All you have to do is order them to do it. They're just low-level laborers, so we don't have to treat them like anything more than that. A chill ran through the room. I glanced around, and everyone had stopped working. My colleagues, who had been dismantling the set just moments ago, now stood in stunned silence. What did he just say? Did he just call us low-level? That guy, he's the same one from before, isn't he? My senior colleagues, those who already had a bad history with Brandon, began murmuring among themselves. But it wasn't just our team. Even the other TV station employees standing nearby were frozen, their expressions filled with disbelief. Huh. Even Brandon finally noticed the shift in the atmosphere. He glanced around, blinking in confusion. Wait, why is everyone looking at me like that? And then, I sincerely apologize. Brandon, do you even realize what you just said? Mark snapped. Whoa, what's with you all of a sudden? Apologize. Right. Now. Mark grabbed the back of Brandon's head and forced him into a bow. Brandon flailed, trying to resist. What are you doing? Let me go. But Mark's expression had gone completely pale. And then, he dropped the truth that left Brandon absolutely stunned. We're bowing because if we don't, we won't even get the chance to ask for work from them. Huh. Brandon's face went blank, his mouth slightly open. He really didn't know. Westwood Art and Design is one of the leading companies in the industry. Our main clients are the major national TV networks. This local station is the only regional network we work with. The only reason we even accepted jobs from them was because their own president had personally pleaded with my father. Look around you, Brandon. You're the only one who didn't know. How many years have you even been working here? No, but there are other art companies. There's no other company that can match their quality. Please, just stop talking already. You haven't said anything else offensive, have you? Seeing his subordinate avert his eyes, Mark went pale and clutched his head. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed the back of Brandon's head and forced him into another bow. I sincerely apologize. Now you two. Sorry, Brandon muttered, his apology clearly reluctant. With that, the tension in the room eased, and Mark practically dragged him out of the studio. Eventually, we finished our work, and the set was completed. As usual, I stayed behind alone to check for any forgotten tools or materials. That's when he showed up again. Ryan, this is all your fault. Brandon stepped into the studio, looking completely drained. His neatly styled hair was now a mess. He had clearly been chewed out after that incident. And yet, he still had the nerve to glare at me. How was I supposed to know you guys were a major company when you walk around in filthy work clothes? I was tricked. If this ruins my career, I swear I'll never forgive you. I've been meaning to say this for a while, but that logic of yours is completely backwards. What? Brandon thought mocking my dirty work clothes was an insult. But to me, those stains were proof of my hard work, almost like badges of honor. Every time I looked at them, I felt proud of what I had built. Which meant every time he tried to insult me, he was actually complimenting me. I like these work clothes. I'd wear them proudly in front of anyone, no matter how high up they are. You're mocking me. Brandon's face turned red with rage, and he lunged forward, reaching for my collar. But before he could grab me, a dignified voice echoed through the studio. How are you, everyone? Huh. Brandon froze mid-motion, turning toward the source of the voice. And it was no wonder, because the person standing at the entrance was Lily. Oh, good evening, Brandon. What are you doing here? Don't tell me you came to see me. In an instant, his anger vanished, replaced by a ridiculous, love-struck grin. But Lily didn't even flinch. No, I didn't. What? Actually, I've been meaning to say this for a while. Can you stop? Huh. Lily sighed. Every time we run into each other, you say things like, "Did you come to see me?" Or "Did you miss me?" It's honestly creepy. Just so we're clear, everything has been in your head. You're imagining it. Imagining it. And there's one more thing I've been meaning to say. With that, I stepped in front of Lily, shielding her from Brandon. Stop pestering her. Lily is my girlfriend. It all started about a year ago, when I worked on a project for a key TV station. Since I was in charge of designing the set for a drama Lily starred in, she was the one who approached me first. I want to use it as a reference for my acting. Would you mind showing me your workshop? Despite her packed schedule, she made time to visit our workshop regularly, genuinely eager to learn. As I watched her dedication, I gradually found myself drawn to her. Eventually, I confessed. And that's how our secret relationship began. I've been careful to keep our relationship out of the tabloids, considering Lily's position. But when she told me you were getting more aggressive, I knew it was time to set the record straight. The day I ran into Brandon again, Lily's smile wasn't meant for him. It was meant for me. And the very next day, he started stalking her, all because he had convinced himself that she was interested in him. A misunderstanding? Me, Brandon. You have a girlfriend, don't you? Even if Lily had feelings for you, what exactly were you planning to do about it? Wait, you have a girlfriend, and yet you had the audacity to tell me they'll make you happy. I had no respect for you. The moment Lily said those words, Brandon, stunned, suddenly stepped onto the set. You're all the same. You tricked me. With a fury to shout, he swept everything off the table. Dishes crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. Startled, Lily let out a small scream and instinctively clung to me. I held her close, and the sight of it only made Brandon snap. Don't rub it in my face. Are you mocking me? Fine. I'll destroy everything. And it's all your fault. He rampaged across the set, kicking over props and smashing anything within reach. Not wanting to provoke him further, I leaned down and whispered to Lily, "Go get someone. Preferably a guy. Okay." It was right after Lily sneaked out of the studio that a sudden shout echoed through the space. Brandon froze mid-rampage, startled by the loud, furious voice. Then, charging into the studio at full speed. Brandon, what do you think you're doing? Mark, it's not what it looks like. Reality finally hit him. He scrambled down from the set, but it was far too late. The set, designed for a home cooking show, scheduled for filming the next day, was completely wrecked. The cozy dining room setup was now a disaster zone. Not what it looks like. Look at this mess. Do you think we can film like this? I'm sorry. Mark was livid, while Brandon had already dropped to his knees in apology. Just then, Lily returned, having missed Mark on the way out. Is the set okay, Ryan? She asked me worriedly. It's built to be sturdy, so it should be fine, I reassured her. But we still need to check. Hello? Yeah, we've got a bit of a situation here. Soon after, my senior colleagues arrived. Brandon found himself completely surrounded, his face draining of color. Then, after that, his verbal abuse toward us, his harassment of Lily, everything came to light. As a result, Brandon was permanently removed from the company's fast-track career path. Following this incident, my father decided to cut all ties with the TV station. Lily also reported the stalking incident to her agency, which led to the cancellation of the show she was set to appear in. Brandon was forced to take responsibility and was transferred to a regional affiliate station. Oh, and his girlfriend of over 10 years? She found out about his attempts to hit on Lily. And so, he left for an unfamiliar place, completely alone. Rumor has it, he won't be coming back. Lily, will you marry me? No matter what happens, I'll always protect you, Ryan. Once both of our work schedules had settled, I finally proposed. Of course, her answer was yes. With tears in her eyes, yet smiling as she accepted the ring, she was without a doubt the most beautiful woman in the world. If you'd rather keep the engagement a secret, my agency said they'll fully support us. No, let's announce it to everyone. And so, our grand engagement announcement, including a full press conference, became a major topic in the media. Now, no man would mistake her smile for something more than it was. Now, I could ensure no one else like Brandon would ever appear, just as planned. At the press conference, a reporter asked Lily, "What kind of man is your fiancé?" With a radiant smile, she answered, "He's someone who always gives his all, and takes great pride in his work." Well then, I can't let her be a liar, can I? Watching her on the screen, I renewed my resolve. I will continue to take pride in my work and strive to create even better sets with each project. I will put my heart into it, crafting sets that move people. Our work is behind the scenes. We rarely receive recognition. That's why there are those who look down on us or think our work can be taken lightly. But every job exists for a reason. And there are people who take pride in doing that job. That is something no one should ever forget. Most importantly, we must take pride in what we do, because I believe that is the key to doing even better work tomorrow. I had to take a wheelchair-bound woman who had fallen and hurt herself to the hospital, which caused me to be late for the important CEO inauguration party. Have you assisted a woman using a wheelchair? You might have just gone to the location and called for an ambulance. Ken, if someone puts society's garbage before their work, they'll be dismissed. Fu was about to invest $150 million in our company, the CEO stated to Ben, the CEO of the other company, while putting his arm around my shoulder. Laughing, isn't it the appropriate decision to fire people who don't work? It's just stupid to pay such worthless workers a paycheck. Really a worthless employee, just a loudmouth with no actual substance. And then there was the woman in the wheelchair, calling me society's trash. Nancy. I was taken aback when I heard that name because I remembered what Ken's secretary, Jessie, had told me. I was shocked that what I had done, which had made me late, would become Ken's worst nightmare. John Aaron is my name. I work with Rue in Recycling of Happiness Incorporated, which gathers used toys and clothing from kids in the U.S. and donates them to kids all over the world. When I was in school, I belonged to the photography club. After high school, I got a job at a small printing company because I wanted to learn more about printing. Since local print shops and home printers were still common at the time, the company mostly accepted orders online. As a result, our claustrophobic office, crammed with machinery, had only 5 staff. I had been with the company for 5 years. People of all ages began placing online orders for photo prints as smartphones proliferated, which greatly boosted the profits of the printing business I worked for. After 2 years, we had grown to over 100 employees and added fan clothing, prints, and novelty items for businesses to our list of offerings. A photographer called Kate, and I began dating during this time after I fell in love with her at an art fair. She became pregnant 6 months later, and our wedding was shotgun. I was really nervous about having kids because I was an only child, but my daughter was a blessing, and we spent our weekends looking for different family activities to go to. My wife proposed that we go to a sustainability event one Sunday. I strolled about holding my daughter while she was busy perusing merchandise. The Rue booth, which featured recycled apparel and eco-friendly toys, piqued the interest of my 2-year-old daughter. The amazing tagline, "Connecting dreams from children in the U.S. to children around the world with goods," moved me as I read a pamphlet that had information about underprivileged children worldwide. Since the event was open until late, I gathered my daughter's unused clothes and went back to the Rue booth to donate them. It was just before the event closed. Afterward, I felt a strong desire to do more for underprivileged children, so I left the printing company where I had worked for 10 years and joined Rue. David, the president of Rue, was a person I deeply respected. Despite being the president, he would participate in the planning department meetings I was part of, offering his opinions and even coming up with ideas himself. The company attracted kind people. The atmosphere was so positive that even in the planning department, we built relationships based on mutual respect rather than rivalry. I truly believed it was my calling. Just when I was getting accustomed to the job, all employees were suddenly gathered, and David made an announcement. "I'm sorry for the sudden notice, but I've decided to volunteer in Africa and start a new venture." Everyone was speechless at such an unexpected turn of events. Ken, the vice president, will become the new president of Rue. Perhaps knowing that the employees would try to stop him if he informed them earlier, David quickly finished his farewell and flew to Africa. While still unable to grasp the situation, I was called by the new president, Ken Coleman. Led by the secretary, Jesse, to the CEO's office, I found Ken deeply seated on a sofa in a room filled with the smell of cigarettes. It was hard to believe it was the same room where David used to be. Enveloped in a haze of cigarette smoke, it felt like stepping into a different space altogether. This weekend, we're having my inauguration party, and I want the planning department to prepare it. But we've never done something like this before, and we don't know how to arrange it. Ken frowned and glared at me. My legs froze in fear, as if I was in the presence of a monster. "I'm sorry. Please let me do it. Should have said that from the start. What a pain." Ken called out to Jesse. "Hey, Jesse, now 32, is highly competent. I've heard she's been supporting David's since she joined the company as a fresh graduate. Book the venue today and call the media too. I want my inauguration party to spread across the internet." Jess replied with an awkward smile. Ken's overwhelming attitude made me wonder, did David really leave this man in charge? "John, plan a new project and prepare the documentation by Thursday. We're announcing it to the media, so make it something catchy and innovative." Thursday. But today's Monday. That's impossible, especially with the party preparations. What Ken said next was the most intimidating and frightening thing I'd ever heard in my life, making me fear I might be fired if I said anything more negative. I shared only the party details with my department, deciding to proceed alone so as not to burden them with a new project. On Wednesday, after pulling an all-nighter to finish the project proposal, I headed to the CEO's office. As usual, the room was filled with the suffocating smell of cigarette smoke, and Jesse looked uncomfortable. I placed the documents in front of Ken and began the presentation. Just as I started explaining the project, collaborating with a children's book author to create books that teach the importance of sustainable practices to young children in kindergartens and elementary schools across the U.S. Ken threw the documents on the floor. This isn't innovative at all. Do it over, he said, dismissing the plan without even looking at a single page. Honestly, I don't care about helping kids. Think about what brings in profit for the company. His statement was shocking. Is this what the president of Ruin should be saying? The thought of continuing to work under such a person filled me with despair. As I ate the lunch my wife made, feeling anxious, Jessie sat beside me. I'm sorry, Jessie apologized with a look of guilt. Why are you apologizing? Ken is the worst. I regret not convincing the former president, David, more strongly. But why was Ken chosen? I don't understand since I've never worked with him before. Checking that no one was around, Jessie began to whisper. Actually, Ken is the husband of David's younger sister, Nancy. She had to quit her job due to a severe illness at a young age. It was the first time I had heard about David's personal life. Ken apparently struggled with gambling and money. David hired him, hoping that work at Ruin would help straighten him out, offering support and a salary. That's admirable. But to make such a person president. In recent years, he pretended to be very diligent and enthusiastic about work in front of the president. So that was it. David must have let his guard down because they were family. At a dinner, Ken passionately spoke about wanting Nancy to receive better treatment and live longer, convincing David, who was thinking of expanding overseas, to entrust Ruin to him. Jessie sighed deeply, her usual upright posture slumped. With David gone, Ken was already doing as he pleased. The betrayal of kindness was unforgivable, and I worried about the company's future. The day before the CEO's inauguration party, it was Thursday, I took the revised documents and went back to the CEO's office again. Different languages, cultures, and backgrounds. But one thing children have in common is memories with family and friends. Every child has someone important and a memory they don't want to forget. My heart was pounding. It felt like it was about to jump out of my body. It's a collaboration with photography. We go to countries with impoverished children, where photographers take and print their photos as gifts. Suppressing a cough from the cigarette smell, I presented my thoroughly thought-out project. It was inspired by photos my wife took for work last night. We'll be using recycled paper for the prints. Clothes and toys might be thrown away as we grow up, but photos remain treasures for a lifetime. That won't make any money. How are we supposed to generate revenue with this content? Ken scoffed. You're still as useless as ever. But I guess we'll go with it. Whether we actually do it or not isn't important, right? Give a presentation for it, will you? I really wanted to shout. What's important is that we actually do it. But exhausted from all the all-nighters, I was just relieved that I didn't have to redo the documents. I left the CEO's office. On the day of the CEO's inauguration party, I practiced my presentation at the company until the last minute and then headed to the venue. I called a cab using an app in time. As I waited for the taxi at the company's entrance, a woman in a wheelchair and a high school-aged boy on a skateboard collided right in front of me. Just as the sound of the wheelchair falling echoed, the taxi arrived. The woman couldn't get up by herself and sat on the ground. I would be late for the party if I didn't take the taxi now. Looking at the boy, his face was pale, and he was flustered. When I looked back at the woman, I noticed she had injured her elbow and leg. Witnessing the entire scene, I thought, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't help her. So, I lifted the woman into the taxi and joined her. Then, the startled boy helped get the wheelchair into the taxi. I'm so sorry. Please, I'll pay for the hospital expenses, the boy blurted out. Don't worry about it. I'm just not used to going out in a wheelchair, so it's okay, the woman reassured him. What a kind woman. In the taxi, I called my colleague, Sherry Garfield, who was preparing at the venue, and spoke about the new project for the first time. I could tell she was upset with me for not consulting her, but she agreed to give a presentation in my place. After dropping the woman off at the hospital, I rushed to the venue. On stage, Sherry was presenting my plan. After the presentation, the venue erupted in applause, which made me very happy. Then, Ken spoke into the microphone. This project was her idea. What a great subordinate. I felt bitter. My carefully thought-out plan was credited to Sherry by a single comment from Ken. But I accepted it. Being late to the important inauguration party was my responsibility. Then, a man raised his hand. It was Ben Hunt, the president of the printing company I used to work for. I will provide $150 million in funding for this project. Let's make children around the world smile together. The venue buzzed. Ken beamed with a smile, shook hands with Ben, and the media surrounded them, taking pictures. I stood frozen at the corner of the venue, overwhelmed by complex emotions and unable to sort out my feelings. Wasn't this your project, John? It was Ben. As I was lost in thought, Ben had approached me. I felt a mix of happiness to see Ben after such a long time and wonder at how he knew it was my idea. As if my pent-up frustrations were spilling out, I shared everything that had happened with Ben. But I really want to do this project. If you're on the project team, I'm more than happy to invest. Work might be tough at times, but as long as you're acting for the benefit of others, good things will come back to you in different forms. Ben's words cleared my frustrations, and I was reminded of my initial desire to make children around the world happy no matter what. After the inauguration speech, everyone was enjoying conversations and meals. I approached Ken, who was happily talking with Ben, and apologized. Then, I explained why I was late for the presentation. So my inauguration party was just that trivial to you? Not at all. I'm truly sorry. I helped the woman in the wheelchair. You could have just called an ambulance and headed to the menu. If someone prioritizes scum of society over their work, they'll get fired. No. I promised I won't make such a mistake again. Just, not firing, please. Ken put his arm around me and turned to Ben, laughing. A person who doesn't work is to be fired, right? Paying such a person is just silly. Always talking back to the boss. Really a useless employee. Hearing those words, Ben left the venue without saying anything. I felt ashamed and worthless, having convinced my wife and received support from everyone at the printing company to change jobs for this opportunity, and now having to leave this company as well. Then, the woman in the wheelchair I had taken to the hospital appeared at the venue. Are you okay? In front of Ken, the woman in the wheelchair said, Am I what you call the scum of society? Nancy. The moment I heard the name Nancy, I remembered the story about Ken's wife that I had heard from the secretary, Jessie. I couldn't believe that this woman was Nancy. Nancy approached me and took out her wallet. It seems it fell at the entrance of the hospital. When I looked inside, I found my husband's business card, so I thought you might be here. I'm glad you were lately. Since everyone uses smartphone payments, I hadn't even realized I'd lost my wallet. Thank you so much for going out of your way. Are you hurt? Nancy smiled and said, No, I'm okay. Nancy was the one you helped. I owe you my thanks. Ken, contrary to his earlier demeanor, smiled at me and expressed his gratitude. If you've saved my wife, that's a different story. I won't fire you as a thank you. Ken spoke cheerfully with a drink in his hand, but Nancy didn't look convinced. That's awful. You just called me the scum of society. It wasn't about you. It's because he abandoned my important party and acted on his own. Ken began to speak faster, and sweat was dripping from his forehead. It was the first time I'd seen him so desperate. I came dressed up because I wanted to celebrate your important inauguration party today. When I saw Nancy had fallen, I thought, she's wearing a really nice dress. Now it's clear that she had originally intended to attend. but I fell over after bumping into a boy on a skateboard. I was injured and couldn't get up, so he came to help me. Her arms and legs were bandaged. I remembered her words. I'm not used to going out in a wheelchair. Then you should have gone home. The words Ken uttered were neither thank you for coming, nor are you okay, but something that deeply hurt her feelings. It's because you're doing something you're not used to. Oh please, someone shut him up. I silently screamed, unable to say anything as I had arrived late. I thought being the president meant you were trusted. I tolerated your attitude at home, thinking you were stressed because you were trying so hard. But perhaps he was saying terrible things to Nancy, who was sick. Without changing her expression, Nancy picked up Ken's meal from the table. What? You want to eat? Nancy threw the plate at Ken with all her might. Pizza sauce stained Ken's shirt. Hey, what are you doing? I've had enough. I want a divorce. A divorce declaration in front of so many people was unexpected. Nancy must have been under a lot of stress to make such a declaration in public. What? You can live on your own. Don't get cocky. You've lived a life completely dependent on me. Just because of a little criticism, you're attacking with divorce. Divorce? Listening to his typical abusive husband remarks made my heart ache. What kind of life leads someone to say such things? That's right. I'm ashamed to be dependent on someone like you. Of course, I'm grateful, but more than that, I hate being known as your wife. Nancy continued talking through her tears. It wasn't just complaints about their marriage life, but about how he'd trampled on the feelings of David and defended me. You've tarnished the company that your brother carefully built up, and now you're firing someone who helped people. You're finished as a human being. David was kind and valued others more than himself. Yeah, divorce? Divorce. I'm not generous enough to support someone who just complains. I have an investor willing to pay me $150 million, so I'm happy to give you a divorce. Everyone at the venue must have thought what a prideful person he was. And yet, Ben had said he would invest in the project, not in Ken as a person. Ungrateful, Ken took off his wedding ring and placed it on the table. Everything was a mess. Before I knew it, the topic of conversation had shifted to divorce, and I couldn't help but worry. What if Kate has complaints about me too? It puzzled me why Nancy chose such a large venue to bring up divorce, but then I thought, maybe she feels so threatened at home that she could only say it here. Try to change. It's not me who needs to change. It's you guys who can't meet my expectations. Nancy was at a loss for words. Of course, she was. Nobody wants to see their husband like this. You want a divorce, right? Then don't say anything more to me. I was dying to know why Nancy married Ken. I wanted to ask right away, but now was not the time. If you keep this up, you'll end up alone. Be quiet. Suddenly, in a panic, Jesse rushed to Ken. Sir, Jesse handed Ken a smartphone. It's a disaster. The $150 million deal just fell through. Ken took the phone, pressing it to his ear. Hello, Ben, what's going on? Yes. The room fell silent. Everyone strained their ears, curious about what Ben was saying, but they couldn't make it out. No. My earlier statement was to educate my employees. The planner, that was Sherry's idea. Ken clearly tried to explain, but then collapsed at his knees as the call ended. Ben, who despises arrogance and dishonesty, might have taken offense to Ken's public disparagement, especially in front of a crowd. But I blamed myself for disappointing Ben, who had been willing to invest $150 million in my project. Yet, if I hadn't stood up for Nancy, who knows what would have happened? What now? Ken sighed, almost laughing. Hey, John. He said in an uncharacteristically deep voice, sending shivers down my spine. You've cost us $150 million. My wife wants a divorce. And look at the mood in this place. What are you going to do about it? What do I do? Firing you wouldn't be enough. Suddenly, I desperately wanted to see my wife and daughter. I might lose everything today, but all I could think about was not what to do with this venue, but how I would support my wife and daughter after quitting my job. So, how are you going to take responsibility? Am I supposed to pay the $150 million? No, I don't have that kind of money. Should I ask for the divorce to be called off? No, that would be unfair to Nancy. As my mind raced, this was not my idea at the venue. Sherry's voice echoed. Everyone watched as Sherry stood with a microphone in hand. The media began taking photos and recording. The creator of this project came up with it in just 3 days while preparing for this party and handling his regular duties. I wasn't even aware that he was planning it at Ken's request. Surely, she must be angry at me for moving forward with the plan without saying anything. But Sherry didn't blame me harshly. Honestly, I wish she had relied on me more. We're teammates after all. I felt terribly sorry for my team. But the reason he could come up with such an exciting plan in just 3 days is because his mind is always filled with the desire to save children around the world. I had forgotten in these past few days, caught up in preparing documents. Row Incorporated is full of people with pure hearts and kindness. Prioritizing helping people in town over such a pointless party seems like a no-brainer to me. Do you want to be fired too? Now I worried. Would Sherry really get fired by Ken? As if prepared for anything, Sherry pointed and glared at Ken. If working under Ken means crushing someone's goodness, I'd rather quit. No one would want to follow a president like that. Ken approached the stage, glass in hand, making noise with his steps. He had forgotten he was being filmed, his expression dominated by anger. I rushed the stage to evacuate Sherry, when honestly I couldn't care less about saving the children. Think about the company's profits. Ken's voice echoed through the venue. These were the words Ken told me when I first made a presentation. I looked at the corner of the stage. There Jesse was playing a recording. The venue buzzed with the shocking content, uncharacteristic of the president of Row Incorporated. Thinking he couldn't cover it up, Ken stopped just before getting on stage. Jesse, what are you doing? I can't stand it. The head of Row Incorporated is constantly hurting people, only thinking of himself. Using an investment of $150 million. A divorce announcement from his wife. And to top it off, his own heartless words echoing through the venue. The situation seemed so bad for Ken, it was almost pitiful. Please apologize to everyone. Me? If you're the president, take responsibility for ruining this party. I was surprised by how assertive Jesse was, but it was cool. Do you enjoy making me the villain? No, it's the other way around. I don't want you to become any more of a villain. Ken stopped himself from saying something. The cold stares from everyone in the venue pierced through Ken. He apologized on the spot, his back hunched. The instability was astonishing. He still had some pride left, as he didn't verbally apologize clearly. John, do you have anything you want to say to Ken? Honestly, I was so caught up in understanding the situation, I couldn't think of anything to say. Given the mic by Sherry, I hesitated for a moment before speaking. Then I said, I love this company, my colleagues who work with me, and our clients who support us. Spending 3 nights straight on document preparation, my wife stayed up late to prepare snacks, and my daughter massaged my shoulders with her tiny hands. It made the tough work feel manageable. I became more appreciative of people. The desire to make someone happy seems to spread to those around you. Today sure saved me when I was late. I looked at Sherry. Her expression, previously furrowed in anger, had softened. Ken, I'm truly sorry for ruining this important party, but as an employee of Rink, not helping those in need is not an option for me. I believe my daily actions are connected to my work. As I wondered what I wanted to tell Ken, my mouth seemed to move on its own. I haven't had a deep connection with Ken, having only presented a new project in these 3 days. Anyway, I want to stay at this company. Please revoke my dismissal. Ken, still with his head down, didn't look up, engulfing the party in an awkward atmosphere. No one needs to leave. David Fu, who was supposed to be in Africa, appeared with a confident face. His smile alone brightened the entire venue. Ken looked up, puzzled. I got a call from Jesse, and man, was I surprised, laughed David as he approached Ken and sat down on the ground. What are you doing? What do you mean? Today is the president's inauguration party. Just as he said that, David grabbed Ken's arm, pulling him up energetically onto the stage. What are you doing? Ken looked over the venue. It must have looked different from when he was comfortably greeting everyone an hour ago. I'm not fit to be president. I'm sorry. Ken apologized to everyone in the venue again and left the stage. After that, the party came to an end. While cleaning up the venue, I was approached by David. John, I'm sorry. I should be the one apologizing. It all happened because I was late. David gathered the employees who were cleaning up the venue. Thank you, everyone. I thought to myself, what a great company this is. Everyone's faces softened at David's words. David has the power to make people smile with just a few words. I'll review the system so everyone can work with peace of mind. Just give me some time. I spoke to Nancy as she was about to get into a taxi. Nancy, why did you marry Ken? Nancy paused for a moment, then said with a shy smile, because he seemed strong. I laughed at the surprisingly simple reason. Maybe I was overthinking it. But that's no reason to get married. If you misunderstand what it means to be strong, it just becomes violence. Maybe it's just not knowing how to protect oneself. My spontaneous remarks surprised Nancy. People who seem weak get protected by others, but those who appear strong are thought to be okay because they look tough. They're fighting alone. As I spoke, I couldn't help but imagine Ken's childhood. Someone capable of uttering such harsh words must have gone through something in the past. But that's no excuse to hurt others. Nancy held my hand and said, "Thank you." After cleaning up the party, I rushed home. The plan I worked hard on with the help of my wife and daughter fell through. Despite receiving many hugs from my daughter, the various things Ken said still stuck in me like thorns. Words can hurt people. Words can make people happy. Words can change lives. It was a day that made me strongly realize something I had taken for granted. A month later, I'm working lively every day as an employee of rowing. In the end, Ken left the company and divorced Nancy. The incident at the party spread through online news, and Ken's intentions were perceived negatively. Jesse, who had worked hard under David, became the president at the young age of 32. Despite various comments from clients and others, we, the employees, are satisfied with Jesse as president. Ken, having lost his job and family, was wandering aimlessly. Feeling sorry for him, David suggested that he join him in volunteer work in Africa. To reach out to Ken, Fu had hurt his sister, and many employees showed how generous a person David is. I couldn't do something like that. Everyone thought Ken would definitely refuse, but surprisingly, he decided to go to Africa. When Ken visited the company after a long time, his expression was much more peaceful. It's hard to believe that someone who used to be so thorny could become so mellow. After apologizing to everyone, Ken left for Africa. Meanwhile, Sure, inspired by meeting Nancy at the party, planned a project not for children, but aimed at helping women who struggle to live on their own. Even men who disrespect women were born from a woman's body. That's exactly right. Sure proposed to David to include Nancy in the project team and got the okay. Nancy used her experiences to speak at talk shows and post on social media about ways to live happily despite illnesses. Nancy is now smiling at work, living happily. That's enough. And then Ben decided to fund the project I had planned. With the support of my wife Kate, I'm working hard as the project leader. It's complicated to think that this project wouldn't have come about without Ken, but I thought I'd thank him the next time we meet. The few days after Ken became president felt like a long nightmare. At the same time, I was filled with gratitude for the many people who saved me from that nightmare. I wonder how many people I can make happy in my lifetime. How many people I can save from nightmares. Believing that my actions today will lead to the happiness of future children, I'll keep working hard today. Samuel Davis is my name. Since I was a little child, I have struggled to engage in conversation with others. I don't have many friends because I'm an introvert. I've been assisting my grandfather with his work since I was a small child because I can't even handle a part-time job interview well. My grandfather is a farmer, and I live close to his home and farm. I've been trying to help the family out financially because my mom has a weak constitution and we live as a single-parent household. At one point, my grandfather said to me, "You're doing fantastic, Samuel. Having a man around is really beneficial." For me, having a location where I belonged was crucial, especially when I was feeling down, not fitting in at school, and even being teased by the females. I began studying farming alone while I was in middle school. My grandfather's stories were insightful and far more engaging than academic assignments. I began giving becoming a farmer significant consideration when it came time to make decisions about my future. Even if I went to high school, I doubt I would perform well, and given the financial situation of our family, it would be best to begin working as soon as possible. I could ease my mom's and grandpa's burdens if I were to inherit the farm eventually. After middle school, I made the decision to become a farmer. However, my grandfather once told me gravely, "You're a bright youngster. You can succeed as a farmer, but that is insufficient." Huh. In the past, even if you were a quiet person, you could still operate a business as long as your crops were good. That won't do now, though. All the good deals go to the smooth talkers. Put another way, it would be difficult for me, as an introvert, to earn a solid living. In fact, I would prefer to purchase from the more gregarious person if they were selling vegetables of the same caliber. Even farming has reached a new phase in which strong marketing and networking are key. Growing tasty vegetables is pointless if you can't sell them. I have to get over being shy. I was thinking along these lines one day when I got a notice about a middle school reunion. My grandfather suggested, "This might be a good opportunity to get over your shyness," but I wasn't too excited. Go try it out. I made the decision to go. The venue for the reunion was booked out, and it was bustling with a bunch of people. When I entered, I was alone, just looking around without anyone to talk to. Then, I noticed a very beautiful woman at the front. She was stunning and had a great figure. She was wearing a brown dress that was very chic and elegant. Did we have someone like her in our class? It had been quite a while since we graduated, and I didn't remember her name. But she probably didn't remember me either. As I was thinking that, I was tapped on the back. "Samuel?" "Oh, Michelle?" It was Michelle Johnson, a classmate from elementary school. In our hometown, there's no one who doesn't know her. Her father is the president of a large corporation. She's the typical president's daughter. For some reason, Michelle came and sat next to me. Then, other classmates began to gather around her. All of them had grown up to be very fashionable. I felt embarrassed in my boring attire. Though I had been trying to keep out of the conversation, Michelle suddenly raised her voice. "Speaking of which, weren't you riding a tractor the other day?" Yeah. I've been farming since I graduated from middle school." "Really? You're a farmer right after middle school. No wonder when you walked in. I thought you were some grandpa." Hilarious. She was loudly saying this in front of everyone intentionally, and it made me feel like all the people in the venue knew about it. The others looked at me with a mix of pity and cruel amusement, like they'd found some entertaining tidbit. I heard that even farmers are fashionable these days, but you're totally different, Samuel. I don't really have many clothes. I thought so. Haha. Led by Michelle, everyone laughed along. This was typical of her. She had been teasing and bullying me for as long as I could remember. I could understand it during our school days, but I couldn't figure out why a person like her would still target someone like me. Then, one of our female classmates spoke to her. Hey, Michelle, isn't that famous actress going to be in a commercial for your father's company? Do you get to meet her? Yeah, it's not a big deal. Amazing. Have you ever met her? She was in a magazine recently. A lively conversation began, and once again, I was left out. Then Michelle said to everyone, Hey, why don't we get together for drinks again with the same group? Let's meet next month. Sounds great. By the way, hey Samuel, you should come too. The moment she called me, I could almost hear the unspoken why him from everyone. Despite the fact that she had always mocked me, I wondered why she would want to see me again. I need to use the restroom, I muttered. Unable to bear the cold stares, I left the table. A few seconds later, laughter broke out at the table. I felt like they were laughing at me, and it weighed heavily on me. When I returned from the restroom, I didn't go back to the previous table. I sat in a corner, drinking alone. Then, the woman in the brown dress, who had been sitting next to me earlier, gave me a warm smile. I wished I could strike up a conversation smoothly at times like this, but I was at a loss for words. As I sat there in silence with my glass in hand, she started the conversation. You're Samuel Davis, right? I overheard earlier. Are you a farmer now? Apparently, she had heard my conversation with Michelle earlier. I felt embarrassed, but she didn't seem to be making fun of me. My grandpa runs a farm, and I hope to take it over someday. That sounds wonderful. And no, I can only help out a little for now. I was surprised to find myself able to continue the conversation, despite my usual mumbling. But that time abruptly ended. Michelle had returned. Samuel, are you hitting on her? Come on. Farming folks can't do that. Laughter echoed throughout the venue at her comment. She didn't stop there. Hey, I heard that farmers eat things like locusts. Is that real? Absolutely not. That's disgusting. Insulted, my situation kept getting worse and worse. I felt terrible for ruining the mood because of me, especially for the woman in the brown dress. She had the kindness to approach someone like me. I thought about leaving the place. Then that woman in the brown dress said something unexpected. I've eaten locusts before. What? I've also eaten crickets. They tasted like shrimp, and they were really good. What? That caused a great commotion, but maybe because she was attractive, her words seemed to have a certain sway over everyone, and the reactions started to change. I've heard about it too. Eating insects is becoming a trend, right? I've seen it on TV too. In some places abroad, they even eat crayfish. Their opinions suddenly turned positive and started to fly around. Michelle tried to steer the conversation back, but everyone was siding with that brown dress girl, so nobody was listening to Michelle anymore. Samuel, should we get going soon? Huh? What? Suddenly, I was taken away by that woman in the brown dress. I was not sure what was happening. We walked down the night road. Why did you help me? Also, I'm sorry, I haven't even asked for your name yet. I still couldn't remember who she was. Then she said with a blush, I'm Jennifer Roberts. Do you remember me? Jennifer? Wait, that Jennifer? I was in the same class as Jennifer back in 8th grade. At that time, she wore thick glasses with a braid and looked like a serious person. She looked so different now that I was taken aback. I've always wanted to say thank you, Samuel. That's why I brought you out here. Thank me. When I asked, she told me she had been a chronic school refuser until 7th grade. When she gathered the courage to attend school in 8th grade, she got strange looks from her classmates, and they talked behind her back. I thought I really hated school. On the way home that day, I tripped, and my bag spilled. I was picking up my things, feeling miserable. Then you, Samuel, who was in the same class, helped me. I certainly remembered that. As I picked up the scattered school supplies, I told her, "You know, vegetables don't get tasty unless they get some sunlight." I didn't understand what you meant then, but later I realized that you were encouraging me to come to school. Yeah, that was probably the best wisdom I could use at the time. I was so happy and felt like going to school again the next day. Inspired by those words, she made an effort to get out more. Thanks to that, she managed to attend high school. Then she started to care about her appearance, got a job, and was scouted as a model. After high school graduation, she appeared in a magazine and now works at an editorial production company. I don't really suit being in the spotlight. I feel more at ease when I'm behind a desk. I get it. I'm shy and have trouble dealing with people. It's a waste for a beauty like her, but I understand her feelings. Before I knew it, I was able to talk to her with an open heart. I thought I could avoid people by becoming a farmer, but it doesn't seem to be the case now. How come? When I told her the problem my grandpa pointed out, she fell into deep thought. But she soon said, "Samuel, would you show me your work just once?" A few days later, she really came to our farm, also bringing a photographer. The collaboration of youth and farming seemed to be a popular content these days, and they were apparently planning a special feature. I wasn't sure about the whole thing, but she interviewed my grandpa and me quite extensively. When the article came out, the response was more than we expected. Thanks to her writing, popularity spread like wildfire, and we started receiving interview requests from other media outlets. I was treated like a man of the hour, and thanks to that, I got used to talking to people. My grandpa praised me, saying, "You've made a good friend." In the middle of all this, an invitation came to a reunion with some of my old classmates. When I went to the bar with Jennifer, I was welcomed with a completely different attitude than before. "Hey, I saw your feature, Samuel. You're doing great. Weren't you on a morning show recently? Farming looks so different and cool these days." I was admired and fussed over. It was the first time I'd been treated like this, and I was somewhat taken aback. But then I realized Michelle, the instigator of all this, was missing. After the party, Jennifer said she wanted to go somewhere. I followed her, and there was Michelle in the bar. We walked in. "Why is Michelle here?" I called her over. "When I was writing your article, I researched local farmers and found her grandfather's name among them." "What?" I was surprised by her sudden words, but Michelle continued the story. "My grandpa has also been farming for a long time. My parents were busy, so when I was little, I spent a lot of time with my grandpa. It seems her grandfather, after stepping down as a company president, took up farming, hoping to make a name for himself by only his ability. But things didn't go as planned, and he couldn't grow good vegetables. Back then, Michelle used to accompany her grandfather to the market with their vegetables, but they always had leftovers. She wondered why her beloved grandfather's vegetables didn't sell, while the ones that always sold out at the same stall were the vegetables grown by a man named James Davis. James Davis? Is that my grandpa? Yes. As a kid, I thought his vegetables were the reason ours didn't sell. Of course, my grandpa never said such a thing, but I wasn't convinced. When I found out in middle school that you were his grandson, Samuel, I was so frustrated I bullied you. But it turns out that wasn't the only reason. She was walking the path her parents had laid out for her. Even if she had something she wanted to be, she was scared of failing like her grandfather. But Samuel, you chose to be a farmer on your own. Even though you were laughed at, you always tried hard. Even though I get praised a lot, in the end, it's all thanks to my parents or the company. I can't do anything on my own. Why are we so different?" As she said this, She started crying. I couldn't help but speak up. Is your grandpa still farming? Yeah. Can I visit the farm sometime? I want to see what kind of field it is. I'll bring my grandpa along. Can I join too? There might be something I can help with, Jennifer added. Michelle looked surprised. Why? Even though I've been so mean to you. I won't deny it was tough, but maybe it's my farmer's blood. I want to see your family's vegetables anyway. Although she had been silent for a while, Michelle wiped away her tears and whispered a small thank you. That day, I realized something. In our teens, we were all naive and immature, often running away because we were scared of failure. But if you bathe in the sun, you can get enough nutrients in your heart. Then all you can do is believe in yourself and those around you and move forward. Because there will surely come a time when you will be rewarded. No matter how many years it takes, the day will come when you can cultivate a fruitful life. I believe that.